Hi, and welcome to my Azure Quick Hits video series. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get Salesforce logs into a Log Analytics workspace so that they can be used by Sentinel. To do that, we're going to create a Salesforce developer account. We're going to build a Logic app, write the data into an Azure Log Analytics workspace, and then go to Sentinel and query the logs. All right, let's get started. First, just go to developer.salesforce.com and then click on the Sign Up button. Fill in your information and then hit Sign Me Up. A few seconds later, it's going to pop up with an almost there. Check your email. So I'll go do that. Open up the email and click on Verify Account. Enter a new password, OK, and click on Change Password. The first time you log in, you'll see a screen like this. Immediately log out and then log back in again. And you're going to get prompted for a phone number registration. It'll send you a verification code. And now you'll be in as an administrator. You should see this screen. If you don't, go up to the settings and click on Service Setup. In the left-hand column here, you're going to see Users. Open that up, click on Users again, and here's the Add User screen. So the first user we're going to create is the user we're going to use with LogicApps as an authentication user to authenticate to Salesforce. So we'll just call him LogicApp, and we're going to call it Azure, and the alias is going to be Azure LogicApp. How about ALA? Email address, I'm going to create one called ala@.ca, which is a domain I own. Leave the user nickname as just LogicApp. And then over here, we're going to choose chatter free and profile chatter free user. And that's all we need to actually create the new user. So we'll just do a save here. One thing, this may be obvious, but make sure it's a valid email account that you're using. So flipping over to that email account's mailbox, finish setting up your Salesforce password, and we're going to click on the link. In what city were you born? I don't know. Let's put Toronto. Change password. All right, and now we've created that user called ALA. So you can close this window. We're not going to need it again. We're not going to need the mailbox again. We're going to go back to this account. Now we need to be able to give that user permission to read the API. So go to Permission Sets, click on New, and then create a name. I just used Azure LogicApps for both, and it's to grant LogicApp access to the Salesforce API. You can leave the licensing at none, okay, and session activation required. Apply the permission set only when the user session meets specified required. You can leave that empty too. Click on Save. Once the permission set is created, scroll down to System Permissions and then look for API Access Enabled. Oh, we got to edit this first, sorry. Click on Edit. Now find API Access Enabled and click on Save. Okay, click on Save. All right, you can see now that the API access set is enabled here. Go back to users, choose the Azure Logic app, the user we just created, scroll down to permission sets, edit assignments, click on Azure LogicApps, add it, and save. All right, you can go down here and check. Yes, it's got it. That finishes what we need to do initially in Salesforce. Now we'll go back over to Azure and create the Logic app. So we'll flip over to our Azure portal, type in LogicApps, and then create a new one. We're going to put this in the correct resource group, and the name I'm going to call it Logic App Salesforce Users. Location is West 2S2. For the log analytics setting, if you're capturing the logs from the Logic app itself, you can turn it on. This will be quite useful initially when troubleshooting anyway. If you're not, then just leave it off. Click on Review and Create, and then click on Create. And this process takes about 15 seconds. All right, go to Resource, and it's going to open up the Designer page. So first thing I'm going to do is click on Blank Logic App, and it pops up with the Salesforce one here because I've used it recently, but if I was in for the first time, I wouldn't see that. So in the Search Connectors and Triggers, I would just type in Salesforce. And then when the icon appears, click on it, and then choose when a record is created. Leave it as production, the API 41.0, and click on Sign In. That will pop up this screen. And here we're going to choose the user that we created in Salesforce. Click on Allow. Now it's cached the credentials in my case for you. You will be prompted to log in. Here we can choose, you'll see a list will populate once it has logged in successfully. And down here we're going to find users. Under how often do you want to check for items? The default's 3 minutes. I'm just going to change this to 20 seconds, but you'll have to work with your organization to figure out what works for you guys. Okay, and then click on Save. All right, once that's complete, click on Run, and you'll see a blue bar here saying See it work now, create a record in Salesforce. So let's do that. We'll click over to Salesforce again. I'm going to go back to Users, and then click on New User. And we'll call this Demo User 1. Duser 1. Email, we'll call duser1 at azuredemo.ca. duser1. We're going to put a bit more information in here. We're going to call it Mr. Company is going to be Microsoft. Department is going to be Engineering. And the division will be Azure. Over here, just going to choose chatter free and chatter free user, and then we're going to click on Save. Now, if we go back to Azure again, you're going to see when a record is created and a little check mark here. So remember we set it up to run every 20 seconds. And so what this shows us is that it has successfully picked up a record. So if I click on this, and then I go down to Show Raw Outputs, we're going to see that record information that we just created in Salesforce. And this is really useful because now we've got all the information we need to pick up the key fields we need from a user record creation in Salesforce. Some of these we probably don't want, but a lot of them we will. So I'm going to copy all of this information, Control C, open up Visual Studio Code, create a new file, and paste that information in. And now we can go back to Designer. We want to send this information to Log Analytics. So just type in Log Analytics in the search bar here. And you're going to see one here called Azure Log Analytics. Use this one. This guy's being deprecated. So use the arrows here. Okay. And send data. Yes, it's in preview. And here we're going to have the connection name. So we're going to call this one is the Salesforce data to Log Analytics workspace. Here we need the workspace ID. So let's open up our other browser window here. Click on Log Analytics Workspaces. And the workspace ID we want to use is going to be Inslamea Log Analytics Workspace. And the workspace ID is over here. So just copy that. Flick back over to the designer. Put that information in. The workspace key can be found by going to Advanced Settings, Connected Sources, Agent Management, and you'll see it here. So just copy that, go back to the designer, paste in the key, and click on Create. This is the Google prompt. I just don't need this. It's going to be saved anyway. And here, when we click on the JSON request body, we're going to see all the parameters that were in that JSON file. If you want to import everything, then under dynamic content, you can type in list and select list of items. And if we were to save this at this point, all those fields would be written to whatever the name of the custom log we create here. So let's just call this one Salesforce. I think it might be more interesting though, if we don't do this, let's just choose the specific fields we need. So to do that, we're going to start off with a square bracket, a squiggly bracket, open quotes, first name, colon, and then choose first name from the list. Now, this other first name also has to be enclosed in quotes. Once you've got that in play, put a comma and then repeat. So I'm going to paste these in rather than spending time typing. And this is where the JSON file becomes quite useful, because you can take a quick look and see which parameters are going to be important for you. So in my case, I might just look at something like, and I may not know what the parameter is called. So let's say company name. All right, so I'll just grab that parameter. Control C, flick back to the screen, and type in company name. Oops, I double quoted that one. Delete. Quote. Go over to this guy. Company name. And then I'll put in a few more. Then finish up with squiggly bracket, square bracket. All right, make sure you have a custom log name in there. We don't have any other parameters to add at this point, and we'll click on Save. Okay, flick back to Salesforce, and we're going to go to Users again, click on New User, and we're going to create another user called Happy Sunday. Okay, that's good enough. We'll call him hsunday at azuredemo.ca. Username will be happy. I can stay there. The nickname will be happy. Title will be Mr. Company will be Microsoft. Department will be marketing. And the division will be sales. Over on the user license, chatter external and chatter free and chatter free user. Once that's done, click on Save. Then we can flick back to Azure, click on Run, and you will see when a record is created. Okay, that's great, it happened. Send data, let's take a look at the send data. We'll show the raw inputs. Looks good. We'll now go to the Log Analytics workspace, and you can see here in this default view, we don't actually have a Salesforce yet. So let's just do a refresh on this. Can we do it here? I have to do a refresh, I guess, on the whole screen. Go to Custom Logs. We now see one called Salesforce. Click on the eye, and there's no data. So the reason for this is there's about a 6-minute delay before the data actually gets from the Logic app to the Log Analytics workspace. So we'll come back in a few minutes and check that. So just click on Run, and you can see now we have our first record with all that key information or those key parameters we wanted. If we just used that list items, we would have the entire contents of that JSON file that we saw in the Visual Studio. This guy here, everything would show up. Now we just need to create a query, which I've done here. And what it does is it looks at the last 7 days and checks to see if any users were created on either the Saturday or Sunday. Okay, so once you've created this, we're going to copy it and then go over to the Sentinel workbooks, create a workbook, and make a couple of entries out of this to give us some nice graphics. So just quickly, what does this do? Obviously, it looks at the Salesforce table. I then set the extend to local time equals time generated minus 8 hours. And that's because I live on the west coast of North America. So I want to make sure that the date time that it looks at is the correct time and not the universal time, the correct local time, not the universal time. Here I'm just setting up the various days of the week. So by default, Sunday, first day of the week is Sunday. So that's 0 days. And the last day of the week is Saturday, which will be the 6th day. I put a comment in here with the others, which we're going to use when we get to the Sentinel workbook. Basically just goes through and checks that if the date stamp is Saturday or Sunday, in other words, it's equal to it's equal to 0 day or 6 days, then it's going to track those records and display them down here. Right, if I click on the results bar, you're going to see the actual users that were created and which day they were created on. All right, so copy this, Control C, and let's head over to Sentinel. Here's my Sentinel workspace on the Log Analytics workspace that I'm using, where I'm storing my Salesforce data. I'm going to go to Workbooks, and then add a workbook, new workbook. It's going to populate with the default setting, so we'll just wait for this to appear. Then we're going to click on Edit, and I'm actually going to delete this one because we don't need it. And then we'll click Add Query, and we'll populate this with the copy we did from the other side. Now the only difference is here we're actually going to take the render column chart out, okay, from that previous, from the query. And then if we do run query, we're going to see there's the information coming up for, in this case, the Sunday. So I must have changed something. There we go. Time range, I want to set this to last 7 days. Okay, and now you can see here's our Saturday and Sunday. We could do this inside the query as well. And at this point, I'm going to say done editing. It's going to leave us with a list of the users created on Saturday or Sunday. But it'd be nice to have this as a graphic. So let's go back to here and click on Edit again. And we're going to change the visualization to a bar chart categorical. And now we're going to have these two bar chart items for Saturday and Sunday. That's a pretty big graphic. So what I may do is just change the chart settings. Actually, I think it's in Style. We'll go to Style. And we'll just make it a custom width. And we'll say custom width of 40%, maximum width 40%, margin, we'll give it a 5 pixel margin, padding of 5, and show border on the content. And let's see, that should be a little bit more easy to consume. Perfect. All right, so we had 2 creations on Saturday and 4 creations on Sunday. Now, with that query, I'd put a comment in that in fact, let's do 2 things here. Let's add a query, and we'll put the same thing in again. We'll take out that render column chart again, but we're going to leave it as, and we'll just change the time range to 7 days, right? So it's always going to check the most recent Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll do the style, and we'll change that again to 40%, 5, and show border, and say done editing. And that's going to place it here. We're going to move this around in a minute. And then let's take one more query. Let's add another query. And we're going to use the same one again. Change that to 7 days. And again, we could set this inside the query as well. And this time, I'm going to paste that in. Remove the column chart. I didn't need that one. And this time I'm going to take off this. Right? I'm going to take out the comment. I'm going to allow it to check for any day of the week. Right? And see how many were created over the course of the week as well. So let's now run the query. And then we'll change this to visualization by bar chart, categorical. And you can see here we've got Monday, there were 7 created, Saturday, 2 created, and Sunday, 4 created. Sorry, I created 7 on Monday. So you can see that over the course of a week, this is going to continuously update, right? And we'll see how many were created on each week. And there's a couple of useful things we could do from here. We could create baselines to look for anomalies, or we could also create alerts off this. All right, so let's click on Done Editing. Actually, let's click on, let's do the same thing, Style. We'll just change that again. We'll make that 40, 40, 5, 5, show the border. And then we'll go to Move. Move down to Group. Let's just say Done Editing for the moment. Okay. Now we want to put some titles on these charts. So we'll start with this guy. We'll do an edit. And we'll go to Advanced Settings. And we'll enter the title chart. This is New Users Created on Sunday. All right, click on Done Editing. And then we'll do the same thing for here. Okay, move up, and we'll just say Done Editing. Great. So there we go. We've now got a simple workbook that shows us users that were created on a weekend, on the most recent weekend, all users created across the last week, in the last 7 days, and then a list of new users created on the weekend. So pretty simple. I hope you found this useful. Remember, this one just checks for Salesforce new user creation. You'd have to go through the same process and create a LogicApp that looks for the attributes Salesforce changes on a user change or permission change. That might be another interesting one to do as well. So this is just new user creation. If you have any questions, queries, or comments, please leave them below. Thank you very much.